Alright, this is my demo for the Space Invaders project. So there's a lot of features that I'm going to be covering. I'm pretty much just going to describe them as best I can while I'm playing the game. I'll also talk about some of the features that I wasn't able to get to for this project and some of the challenges that I faced when working on this project. One thing to note, the UFO in the game, it does make a high-pitched sound on a loop, but I've disabled it for this demo just because it's sort of hard to talk over that whenever the UFO comes up. I'll enable it after most of the other features are demoed later on and show it then. But for now, we can jump right in. So here the game starts up on the select screen, and this is just sort of an introduction. It gives the point allocations for each of the aliens and for the UFO, and shows some of the labels, the texts, and one thing that I added for this project specifically, press A to start game, and what that'll do if I press A is it'll jump into it'll switch states and go into the playing state from this attract state right now. So I'll press A and jump into the playing state. Now I'll start with the alien grid. Here I have a 5x11 grid of aliens. The bottom two rows are octopuses, the next two are crabs, and the top one is squids, and all the sprites for each of the specific types of aliens, they're all proportioned exactly how they should be. So the crab is a little bit smaller than the octopus, the squid is a little bit more smaller than the crab. So here the alien grid has synchronized animation and movement, and at the same interval each of the aliens will move and animate, switch to a different image. I've also included the marching sound effect, which is just a loop of 4 different sounds, and that also plays according to the same interval and gives this background noise of the aliens sort of marching. The aliens can collide with the left and right walls, and when that happens they'll move down a little bit and switch or reverse directions of movement. I have my player ship here, and I can move left and right by pressing the left and right arrows. If I hit the right wall, I can't go any further. It switches to a different state for the ship, which doesn't do anything when the right arrow is pressed. And if I hit the left wall, same deal, I can't go any further. It switches to the state where it says the ship is on the left edge and it can't go any further. I can shoot a missile with the ship, but I can only shoot one, so here, if I press space continuously, it'll only ever shoot one missile. Let me restart the game. So, the aliens in the grid, they can drop bombs randomly, and it'll pretty much be a random column each time, and the bomb will drop from the position of the last child, or right below it. So here you can see them dropping from all the octopuses. The bombs come in 3 different styles. There's the cross bombs, there's the straight bombs, there's the squiggly bombs, there's the dagger bombs. So there's 4 actually. And these bombs can interact with the floor, they can interact with the shields, they can interact with the player, and the player also has its own missile that can interact with the aliens. So here, if I shoot an alien, there's an explosion animation, the alien disappears, and the column bounding box for that specific column, it also adjusts accordingly to only include the union of the aliens that are actually left. So here, these columns are adjusted accordingly, and the overall grid box is still taking the union of everything. So here you can see that I can still only shoot one missile at a time, and I can shoot aliens pretty well. I can also shoot the alien bombs themselves with the missile. I'll try to do that right now. I missed. I'll try to do that at some point, but I'll just keep describing the other features. So the missile has an animation when it hits the top wall, here. Okay, so there, I shot a missile at the bomb, and it was hard to tell, but there's a specific animation for both the missile and for the bomb. So here I can keep shooting the aliens down, I can launch them, maybe they'll go through. The missiles can also interact with the shields, and they can now actually destroy enough bricks to drill a hole right through the shields. And then the missiles can shoot through the holes in the shields. The bombs can also interact with the shields. So the shields are made up of a lot of very small bricks, and the shield brick is, I guess, the unit object. These bricks are created and assembled into long columns called shield columns, and then the shield columns are grouped together to form a whole shield, which is called a shield group. And you can see right there that the shield group box actually adjusts accordingly as well. Let me reset the game here. So the shields form shield columns, or the shield bricks form shield columns, which form shield groups, and then the shield groups, the 4 of them, are all under a single shield group, which is the long horizontal blue box that encompasses all of them. So both the missiles and bombs can interact with the shields. I sort of implemented this this observer function, which I guess checks whichever brick that the missile hits. It'll go a few columns to the left, a few columns to the right, and the column that it hit itself. And it'll sort of delete a random number of bricks between like 1 and 4 from the ends. So the bombs will delete it from the top of the shields, or the visual top of the shields, whereas those bricks at the top are actually at the ends of the column lists. And the missiles will delete the bricks from the beginning of the columns, and it'll sort of give this dissolving effect. What else? So I have the extra lives down here. I have the counter, and if my ship gets deleted, which I'll try to do, it will do an animation, and it'll decrement the counter. Oh, I missed it. But it'll decrement the counter. Let me restart the game. So here, if a ship gets deleted, as I was saying, the counter will decrement. One of these ship sprites will be removed, and essentially when that counter hits 0, it's game over, and there's a specific thing to handle that. So here you can see that there was an animation, ship reappears on the left, the counter now says 2, and there's only 1 ship left, whereas there were 2 before. So if I get hit again, same deal. There's the explosion animation, the counter now says 1, and let's see if I can get hit one more time. So that was my last life. The counter goes to 0. In my code, there's a section where it calls the handle function for the playing state and switches over to the game over state. And here, what I essentially do is I remove all the objects from the timer, but keep all of the sprite images on the sprite batch that are going to be drawn. So it gives this view that the game just sort of stopped. It says game over, nothing else moved. I guess it doesn't really show up as an animation, but when it's game over, if the score for the player is higher than the previous high score, and it starts with 0 every time this project is started up. If the score is higher, it'll replace the high score. Now here, I can press Q to go back. That pretty much just calls the game over state, switches the state over back to the attract state. And from there, I can see that the high score is there, I can see the point allocations, and I can start the game again. So I can toggle the sprite boxes on and off by pressing the letter T, and this is done by a flag in the sprite box class. And since all of the sprites are drawn, or at least the sprite boxes are drawn and called through the sprite box render function, I just set the toggle right there, and if the toggle is activated, it'll render them, and if it's not, it won't. So here you can see that if they're not rendering, then everything still works as it should. I'll try to shoot the UFO down here. So there you can see that after the UFO is shot, there's a UFO explosion animation, and then it indicates the score, or the points that the UFO gave to the player. Each of these aliens, or the different types of aliens, give different scores. So this octopus gives 10 points, goes from 280 to 290. The crab gives 20. And then if I can shoot a squid will give 30 points, going from 370 to 410. And then the UFO gives a random amount of points. It's either 50, 100, or 150, so it just happens randomly. Another way to get to the game over state is to, if the aliens get to the bottom and hit the shields, it'll automatically switch to the game over states, or the game over state, and I'll do that here. So here, it's now game over. The aliens were able to get too far down, and then I can start again. Alright, so I'll try to play all the way through and get to the second level and try to beat the second level, and you'll be able to see that as I'm playing, the aliens speed up as there's fewer aliens. I've actually added in a function as well that or a checker that says that if you reach 500 points in the game, you get an extra life. So you can see down there it went from 3 to 4. Got a few of these guys left. So you can see that they're moving really fast now. They're not like super fast like they are if there's one alien left in the original game. And here, when all the aliens are deleted, it'll take a moment and it'll start over, get to level 2 essentially. The score is the same, you still have the same number of lives you originally had, and it's hard to tell, but the movement starts out slightly faster than the last level, and it increases for every level. I wasn't able to do it. This alien over here was part of the problem. But as you can see, I guess there's a slight issue with the high score. I'm not sure why that is, but I'll try to see if I can fix that. But yeah, if you can do better than I can, if you're demoing this, you can beat all the aliens on this level 2 and get to level 3. I've tested it and it does run successfully through 2 levels. One of the things I'll quickly mention that I wasn't able to get to is the 2-player functionality. It involved a lot of moving parts with dealing with the game object manager, the timer manager, the sprite batch manager. It sort of was the issue of seeing if I can hold the trigger times for all the time events constant, but I wasn't able to do that. So yeah, this is my project. I had a ton of fun building it, taught me a whole lot about design patterns, and I think it was one of the most invaluable experiences I've had. So I hope you enjoyed this project.